Hello, my name is Christina, and in this video I will demonstrate how GIDEON can be helpful to public health experts with a particular interest in foodborne illnesses. Let's dive right in. So I'm in the GIDEON interface and I'm going to hit this Explore button to access our database where we collect the data on diseases, drugs, vaccines, microbes, and countries. I'm going to click Diseases and select Search by Fingerprint button. Now in here I can ask different research questions and have GIDEON retrieve the data. So for instance, I want to retrieve all bacterial foodborne diseases that are present in China, and there's 17 of those. Perhaps I want to switch it up a bit and ask a different question. I want to find out all the viral diseases that can be acquired by eating dairy products in China. And now we have 3. And lastly, maybe I want to find out all the parasitic diseases that may be acquired by eating meat in India. And there's 6 of those. So what I can do from here, I can access those diseases directly and learn more about them, or I can add them to a comparison table. Comparing diseases side by side is a unique feature of GIDEON that no other platform has. And what I'm going to do here, I'm going to access this compare, where a little light bulb is on, meaning that we have items in there. And I will compare toxocariasis and toxoplasmosis side by side. So this will show me what's always present, what's never present in terms of clinical findings and clinical presentation of those diseases. But I can also have a look at the fingerprint comparison and see how these diseases differ in terms of reservoir, vector, vehicle, and agent. Now we only have 2 parasitic diseases here, so let's add more. Let's add cholera, a very well-known foodborne illness, botulism, and I'll throw in lymphocytic chorea meningitis in as well. And now we have a variety of diseases here that we can compare very nicely. We can see the different agents, reservoirs, vectors, and vehicles. Also, GIDEON will show key clinical findings and diseases, and this can be useful when investigating an outbreak. Now, every page in GIDEON, you may have noticed these download PDF, email PDF buttons. Every single page can be easily shared with your colleagues and peers by simply entering their email and hitting send. Okay, let's have a look into cholera in a little bit more detail. In the disease page, you will find these country-specific notes suggestions, so you can access one of the 25,000 country notes by simply typing in the name of the country. We can have a look at the worldwide note, which we'll do in a second, outbreaks map, and bioterror notes. On the disease page itself, you will always get a summary of agent, reservoir, vector, vehicle, incubation period, diagnostic tests, typical therapies, cross-linked to anti-infective agents that GIDEON tracks, as well as vaccines, findings, all nicely referenced in here. Okay, let's access this worldwide note and have a look at the global overview of cholera. Now, the first thing we see is historical background, information there, notable outbreaks, so the largest outbreaks that are really significant on a global scale, and we have those nicely written up here. The note is particularly large and granular, and of course we reference everything. Sources contained 20,000 different sources, really includes grey literature, youth literature, and health ministry reports, books, and journals as well. As I scroll down, we'll see different types of data appear. So now we're looking at the worldwide graph for cholera cases, and we can see how those cases have risen over the years. We can have a look at the exact numbers by hitting data table, and we can export either view by just hitting this download button over here. Some notes we include under every graph that we consider to be important. This is a cholera countries reporting disease worldwide, so I'm happy to say that that number is falling. As we scroll down, there will be all different kinds of data, regional data, here African region, and then Americas region, and so on. I'm going to scroll past the graphs real quick. And now we see prevalence surveys. So nearly every country note and worldwide note will have prevalence surveys. And then we have particular notes pertaining to strains of Vibrio cholerae, cross-border events table, very important these days as diseases can be imported and exported, and also reviews and updates. So you can see here just on this page we have 632 references, which means if you're doing a systematic literature review, this can be particularly handy because all of those references, they have been reviewed by our team going through an evidence-based editorial process, and you can trust that these are good sources of information. All right, let me go back a bit and click here on the map. Now, this is a visual way to explore a public health data. So our cholera outbreaks map goes back to 1817, and we have an endemicity legend here, annual disease rates per 100,000 population. The darkest color will be the hotspot, if you like, cholera, so where disease is most prevalent. Now, I export different diseases just by using this dynamic breadcrumb. So I'm going to load up botulism now, and we can see a very different picture for botulism. Again, darker colors mean disease is more prevalent there. Let me switch to salmonellosis just to illustrate what happens when we have a disease that's present everywhere. This is a pretty rich map going back to 1943. Now we can narrow down this range. We can narrow down to just the last couple of years and see what salmonellosis outbreaks have occurred. We can zoom in. Data is geospatially coded. So in here we have Cambridge in United Kingdom, for instance. Let's have a look at brucellosis. Brucellosis is an interesting one. And you'll note that endemicity levels here, they change from disease to disease because not every disease is prevalent on the same scale. And so we adjust the scale to showcase where the most prevalence is. And so we can see that China is actually quite endemic for brucellosis. Outbreaks go back to 1938 on this map. If I zoom in, I can select particular provinces, such as Fujian, and there's been 6 cases in Fujian in 2019. So now if I want to delve a little bit deeper into this data, I can actually select the country note, and I'll go into brucellosis in China and see what GIDEON has on this disease in this country. So the first thing we see is when the latest outbreak has occurred and how many cases there were. And here we can see 2019, 2020, 10,528 cases. Time and place, that's again historical background on that particular disease in this country. A graph of brucellosis cases evolving over time. Additional incidence data and geographic notes per province. So wherever possible, we try to include this granular data in each country note. Then we have a depth graph, prevalence surveys. Again, I can filter by years, and our team reads every publication, summarizes it, and cites it like so. So if you're just working with a programmatic data and you just want to extract percentages or particular focus groups, notice that we follow One Health approach here, and we also include animals because cattle can, for example, disease to humans. So it is important to track the disease in both. Seroprevalence surveys is another table over here, and then we have notable outbreaks. Now let me just sort. Okay, so here we have outbreaks table, and I can enhance it by adding settings. You can see additional data has appeared. We can add population, animal cases, animal population, pathogen, particular strains were available, and also the source of the outbreak, such as milk, goat, transplant central, and so on. Then we have a case series table. So case series is a different type of epidemiological data, but it's also a clinical data, and we collect those in different tables as well, exploring different parameters of brucellosis. Okay, and here we have related notes. So we're interested in this one. You may be interested in Hong Kong or Macau, or so GIDEON suggests. So that now I can click through to Hong Kong, for example, and have a look at brucellosis there. The thing that GIDEON collects is bioterror nodes, and brucellosis happens to be a bioterror disease. So if I click on the bioterrorism node over here, or I can just select it as a country, it will give me better potential exposure scenarios, countermeasures, historical use of the pathogen, recent control measures, and so on. We have 45 nodes of this nature. Suppose we're interested in just a particular country and we want to see the endemic picture, what diseases are present there, travel guidelines. We can always go to explore countries. And in this case, we're exploring China. So the first thing we're going to find is guidelines, yellow fever guidelines, any vaccine-related, non-vaccine-related recommendations for travelers, any malaria prophylaxis that are recommended, also diseases relevant to that country. So in here, we see all diseases that are relevant to China by virtue of infecting agents present in terms of reservoirs, vectors, or autochthonous cases being reported. And we can see when the latest outbreak has occurred and how many cases there were as well. So this is a really great at-a-glance overview. Now, if I click through, I will find a country note, just like the one we explored earlier. Okay, let me scroll down. I'll show you the vaccination coverage graph for vaccines and the vaccination schedule with explanations of what those abbreviations stand for. Okay, now perhaps I'm still interested in China and I want to have a look at some stats that GIDEON has. We currently have over 53,000 individual graphs, and you can combine up to 6 graphs at a time to create bespoke epidemiological charts. So in this case, what I want to do, I want to explore 2 different diseases in China, brucellosis and cholera. As we are in the same country, we can just select cases, and I will add both of those to a chart, click generate, and here we have this lovely graph. Now, where the graph is broken up, that means we haven't got the data for those years. So rather than guessing what happened in that period of time, GIDEON will simply leave it empty until the data can be found and added in. And we can switch to a data table view at any point in time to see the raw numbers. Also, all of this data is available for export via the API programmatically, so you can recreate those charts without. Now, I'm going to remove China here, and I just want to see what's happening in my neighboring countries and regions. So I'm going to select botulism. Botulism in Taiwan and the autonomous region of Hong Kong. And now I'm going to switch the type of graph here. I just want to filter by rates because we want to resolve by rates per 100,000 since populations in those 2 locations are different. I'm going to add those 2 to the chart and generate the chart. And here we have a very nice overview going back to 1992 of botulism in Hong Kong and Taiwan. This graph can be exported at a click of a button, and you can use it in your lectures, presentations, or publications. And lastly, perhaps I want to compare another disease in Taiwan and Hong Kong, and in this case, yes, I'll go to anthrax because it happens to be a foodborne zoonotic disease, which we're interested in. I'm going to add anthrax right next to botulism and generate the chart. So now we have 4 different graphs working alongside one another, and we can see the spikes, the trends, and so on, botulism and anthrax. And we can see that botulism in Hong Kong is taking sort of the first place by these spikes. Okay, I'm going to clear this table now and head to a different kind of visualization to show you vaccine coverage maps. Now, vaccine coverage maps include a number of vaccines over here. Since we're interested in foodborne diseases and better yet foodborne zoonosis, select tuberculosis over here. And this is tuberculosis BCG coverage as estimated by WHO. This is expressed in percentage, and we're currently looking at 2019. Now you can see the levels of vaccination coverage and how it corresponds to colors over here in this key. This key is the same for every single vaccine. And this particular map goes back to 1977. So let's just see how the coverage of vaccine has evolved over the years. 1980, we can see that these are the countries, Czech Republic, Hungary, and Bulgaria, vaccinating their population with BCG. Now let's go to 1990. A lot more countries are vaccinating. Year 2000, here we go, a different picture. And then if we go to 2010, and finally 2019, we can see that some countries have reduced their vaccination efforts on this disease. So this is an interesting map, and what's good about it is that you can set the zoom level to anything you like. You can hit this download button and export it at a click. You can also view the entire interface in dark mode if working at night, and we can also toggle accessible color schemes happen to be colorblind. So it really caters to all abilities. Switch to the final visualization that GIDEON has, a global outbreaks map. We're looking at 2024 global outbreaks map, and you can see that there's already been some outbreaks of foodborne illnesses in here, such as cholera in Gujarat, gastroenteritis, viral gastroenteritis in the United States. Perhaps I'm interested in this particular node. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to click on it and I'll show you how to find that outbreak. So all we have to do when we get to the country node is scroll down until we find the outbreaks table. And in the outbreaks table, I want to see what happened this year, 2024, 100 cases. And if we look at it here, it happened on the cruise ship Celebrity Constellation. So perhaps I want to enhance this table. And as I click setting, we can see that there's been a few outbreaks of foodborne illnesses, of viral gastroenteritis in particular on cruise ships over here. So it's a little bit of a pattern. Have a look at the population as well. What's the source? Has there been a source identified, like in this case, oysters? We can add the particular pathogen. So in this particular case, this year, there's been a norovirus outbreak. Virus has been responsible for quite a few of those. Oh, but there's been sapovirus as well. So this is all interesting data, and where possible, we will identify this strain as well. Okay, so hopefully you found this useful. If you would like to learn more or how you can explore and conduct outbreak investigations using our diagnosis module and how that ties in with the epidemiological data, please feel free to click the link down below and book a demo. Thank you very much for watching. Bye-bye.